Here. So I just want to say to some of my neighbors, and you know who you are because I do live here on the island, that you sold me a bill of goods. When I moved here, you told me how much nicer the weather would be than it is in Ithaca, New York. And I have to tell you, I'm ready to go off state. This keeps going on. So anyway, actually I think they got more snow than we did today, so I'm going to stay for a while longer. So listen, I'm just going to kick this off by introducing you to our team, and we have a fabulous team here tonight. And they're going to spend as much time as you'd like really focusing today on our plans for the construction of the campus. We're going to be back many times over the course of the next 2 years talking about program and all the other things that we're really anxious to talk to you about. But tonight's discussion is focused on the campus itself. So as all of you probably know, in December we actually signed a lease, and so Cornell Tech now has possession of the site. And our plans are well underway to begin construction. So that's our focus. So before we do that, I want to start by introducing a number of people. And first I want to start by saying we are so thrilled to co-host this meeting tonight with a really important group of people. And this is our Community and Construction Task Force. This is a group of individuals, most of who have worked tirelessly over the last year or two, really to represent Islanders well and make sure that we at Cornell know what you're all thinking and what's important to the island as we move forward. And so I want to thank them after we introduce them all, or they introduce themselves, for all the work they've done and will continue to do. This is one of those no good deed goes unpunished, I think. So can I, some of the members I think are where? Yes, starting in the front. Can you stand up and just introduce yourself? Starting with you, Matt.
Hi, my name is Matthew Katz. I've been involved with Cornell Interests for about 2.5 years now, and it's been a good association and continues to be.
Hi, I'm Larry Parnas. I'm representing Community Board 8.
Ellen's in back. Sorry.
I'm Ellen Pallavi. I'm the chair of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition and the Residents Association.
Other members?
Community Board 8.
Ellen has a long pedigree. Are there other task force members here? Okay. Well, the task force, as I said, has been extraordinarily involved as individuals, and we're so grateful that these individuals have agreed to work with us and meet quarterly with us as we proceed through this process. So please join me in thanking them for all the work they've done. So I want to introduce two other important people before we get to our team, who are also important, that we're very grateful have joined us here tonight. And the first is Councilmember Ben Kalos. First of all, congratulations to him for being councilmember.
Thank you very much. My name is Ben Kalos. You can follow me on Twitter as @BenKalos. It's hard to remember, I know. But you can pull out your phones and tweet about it for anyone who isn't here. And for anyone who missed the inauguration, we actually featured a little piece of Roosevelt Island. We had Jim Bates from Roosevelt Island Disabled Association, who is also a member of Roosevelt Island Senior Association, who read The Four Freedoms. And I also want to recognize Sally Menard, who did great work on bringing Four Freedoms here. And if you haven't been there, please make sure to visit. On Friday, this Friday the 7th, we're doing First Fridays. It will be a monthly opportunity for any of you to come by my office. We're at 93rd and 2nd in the old Weight Watchers. It'll be from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I'd love to sit and have a conversation with any of you who want to come and talk. We're also going to be having Roosevelt Island Mobile Constituent Hours. But now for what we're really here for, which is Cornell. I was so excited to have a chance to work with Roosevelt Island and Cornell through the ULER process. I think it is great that through that process they came back with a whole 8 pages of items that they wanted to work with this community on doing. And one of those key items was barging. I think that as a member of this community, think we can't have enough barging. We'd like them to barge as much as possible. And I was so excited when I got to see the barge out there, and I know from so many of you who called and let me know how excited we were to see that barging. And yes, let's give them a round of applause, they deserve it. So, thank you. You know how expensive and much more difficult barging is. I also want to thank Ellen Pallavi. I worked closely with her during the ULERP process, and she will be my appointee to the task force. And with her various roles that you all got to hear, I think she's going to do a great job for the community. And I just look forward to working with all of you and Cornell to make sure that Cornell is doing everything they said, and I think they will, and that the city is providing all the services that you need. I want to make sure I introduce my Roosevelt Island director, Joe, if you want to just give everyone a wave. And our number is 212-860-1950. Joe lives on the island, so you can just grab him anytime you see him, and he'll be available. And I'm here as often as I can be. So it's my honor and privilege, and look forward to representing you for the next 3 years and 11 months. Thank you very much.
Now, before you go, we have to give you a special thank you that I just discovered it's a council member's birthday today. So we won't reveal you the song, but happy birthday. Thank you for coming. Go have a nice dinner with your wife. Okay, the second person we're just delighted and honored to have here is Deputy Borough President Aldrin Bonilla, who's here representing Borough President Gail Brewer. So will you say a few words?
Good evening. I just wanted to let everyone know that we reappointed Christina Delfico. I'm sorry, can everybody hear me now? We reappointed Christina Delfico to the task force on the Cornell Tech Project Community Construction Task Force. So she's a long-time Roosevelt Island resident and very active in the ULERP process, and I know many of you know her. And also, I'd like to mention that we're involved in many of you heard of the Vision Zero plan that Mayor de Blasio is working on. That during the last 2 weeks we presented a variety of different hotspots throughout the borough of Manhattan to the task force for consideration in terms of traffic calming and pedestrian safety measures. And we're working on a variety of different, right now we're in the middle of the community board appointment process. The deadline was February 1st. We've received over 400 new applications, and about 80% of the current board members throughout the borough applied for reappointment. So we're ready to begin that process of selection. And more importantly, we're here to stay throughout the meeting to be able to hear your comments in the town hall meeting, which we're very concerned with. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also understand that Breeze Pear from Assemblymember Kelter's office is here. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, on to the main event. Let me start by introducing members of our team. We have just a wonderful group here tonight. I'm going to start by one of the newest members of our team. We are thrilled that James Swanson has joined us in a really key role for our campus. We're going to fill out a chain on the island here in the next few years. So Jamie, it's so great to have you on board. Some of the other members, many of you may know also. Megan French is here, Director of External Relations. Sandra Roberts was here. Oh, there's Sandra. Andrew Winters, who you're going to hear from in a little bit. Jennifer Klein. Jennifer's here. Diana Allegretti is next to Jen. And Jonathan Labuti. So Andrew, Jennifer, Diana, and Jonathan are really the core of our project development team on our campus. In addition, we have some terrific partners I want to introduce. First is Kate Bicknell from Fourth City Radnor, as well as Liz Canella. Thank you for coming. From Hudson Related, we have Ariana Sachs Rosenberg. Right here. Thank you. From Pal Environmental Services, Aric Domozick. You'll hear from Aric soon. And finally, Field Operations is Karen Tamir. Thank you, Karen. Okay, so you've met a lot of our folks. What I'm going to do now is turn this over to Andrew. And what we really want to focus on today is we're going to give you a brief overview of our campus planning. I know a lot of you have seen this. so we'll go quickly, but we just want to remind you what our plans are and really give you the overall vision, because it's been a while since we've done that. Then we do want to talk specifically about demolition and barging, which is the current phase we're in now. We just started. And finally, we want to touch on open space. So I believe Karen will talk a little bit about our plans for that. So let me turn this over to Andrew.
Thanks, Cathy. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here's the agenda. As Cathy said, I'm going to give you a general overview of the Tech Campus plan. The abatement and demolition is really one of the main reasons that we're here to talk about this project tonight. It's very important to us that we come here to you at the very beginning of the construction process and outline, not only to share with you information from our teams, but really to outline what we're doing, what you're going to be seeing on the island over the next couple of months, to really give a strong sense of what the process is going to be. I mean, I don't have to hold it the whole time. All right. I have to stand on my toes.
It would be better if you held it actually.
Well, I'm afraid I need my hands to point to this. All right. I'll hold it. Is that better?
Yes.
We'll see about that. Okay, so just a quick overview of the programming of the campus before I go into the physical campus. As Cathy said, I think many people have been part of the conversation to date, but I want to make sure that people understand not just the physical piece of the campus, but really what underlies that. And the key here is really, this is a graduate campus. It's for graduate students only, and it's really about linking tech research and education with the practical applications through entrepreneurship and business. And that's really why Cornell Tech is in New York City, because of New York City's strong position in the world of business and the world of technology. So bringing together in the school and physically on the campus, students, faculty, staff, as well as people who are entrepreneurs and people in business. And that's what you'll see when I describe the physical campus. And that's really important, and that's really at the heart of what we're trying to accomplish here. So the actual program for the first phase includes 4 separate buildings. The first academic building, which is really the heart of the academic program, it's about a 150,000 square foot building that's being designed by Tom Main of Morphosis Architects, and I'll show you images of that. The second piece is the corporate co-location building. Cathy introduced the team from Forest City. We're working with them on the development of a building that will really house a piece of Cornell, but really a larger piece of businesses and entrepreneurs and startup space to be able to give students the opportunity and to give entrepreneurs the opportunity to mix together on this campus. A third piece is the residential building. As part of the Phase 1 project, we'll have a residential building with approximately 350 units. Is that about right? And as Cathy introduced, our partner is Hudson Related on that building. This will be a building, again, only for graduate students, for staff, and for faculty. So it's a specifically related to Cornell's operations. And the goal is really to help to vitalize the campus and make sure that it's really a 24-hour-a-day type of operation by having people not only study there and work there, but also live there. The next piece is an executive education center, again with the idea of sharing the ideas that are being developed on the campus with the rest of the corporate world, and sharing ideas from that world with the campus. So the idea here is there would be an executive education center with a hotel component associated with it, also as part of Phase 1. Now the key to Phase 1, and Karen's going to be talking about this, is the development of a public open space plan. Campuses around the country are known by their public open space, by their ability to draw people in, not only students, but really the public, and to create these wonderful opportunities for interaction between people. And that's really the heart of how this campus is designed. And you'll see that in some of the images. We have more than 2 acres of public open space in the first phase alone. For people who remember the numbers as part of the Euler process, Cornell's committed to creating minimum of 2.5 acres of open space throughout the entire life of the project. And in Phase 1 alone, we're creating more than 2 acres of public open space. And finally, part of the project is rebuilding the roadway that loops around the site and expanding it for emergency vehicle access, building bike lanes as part of that, and rebuilding all of the site utilities. One of the challenges that I think people on Roosevelt Island know fairly well at this point is that many of the utilities, particularly at the southern end of the island, are not up to code, not up to standard, and so part of the project will be rebuilding all of those utilities. In terms of the timing, we're looking to open phase 1 in the summer of 2017, which will almost certainly include the first 3 buildings. The Executive Education Center may lag a little bit behind. And then finally, we're really focused on 2 things in terms of design. One is openness and accessibility, and Karen's going to walk you through the open space plan. Our goal is to take the amazing open space connections and plans that already exist on Roosevelt Island with your open spaces, parks, and particularly with the promenade and the parks and the memorial at the southern end of the island, and really connect and be a part of that open space network. That's really fundamental to the success of our campus. And second of all, environmental leadership. Cornell in Ithaca has staked out a position of environmental leadership using technology to try to improve people's lives, particularly having to do with the built environment. So when I show some of the images of the buildings, you'll see that we're looking to generate energy on campus through solar panels. We'll be looking to drill wells to create geothermal energy. And we're also designing the campus to use less energy than typical buildings would be. And a part of that is going to be outreach and education, not just for people who are on the campus and living there and working there, but really for the community and for the broader culture as well. One of the areas of study on the campus will be technology and the built environment. So on to the site plan. I won't go into this in detail because Karen's going to be talking about this, but I did want to point out that the project is really looking at phase 1 at the north end of the campus. You're seeing the slide is turned to the side. Manhattan is this way and Queens is over here. This would be the pedestrian entryway to the campus because the public transportation really drops people off along the western roadway. So the idea is that people would come onto the campus. Here's the first academic building. Here's the corporate co-location building, 2 very long, low buildings. Executive Education Center and the residential building are taller buildings that would sit at the north end. But as I mentioned before, it's really all connected through with this open space. And that's the idea that it pulls all the buildings together. The buildings will be different height, different style, different architectural expressions, but it's really the open space and the public nature of the campus that brings it all into a single unified composition. So here are a couple of renderings. All of these have been public before, so I won't belabor them. You can look at them online. But just to talk about what you're seeing, all of the phase 1 buildings clustered at the northern end of the site, the taller buildings at the very north end. Here are some of the solar arrays that sit on top of these long, low buildings. The taller buildings have to be north of those so that the sun gets captured by these solar arrays. The other piece I haven't talked about is the future of the campus after phase 1 is built sits down here to the southern end. We're committed to building out, I think, up to 1.8 million square feet over 25 or 30 years. But in the meantime, when we do open up phase 1 of the campus, we're committed to creating about 6 or 7 acres of public open space at the southern end as well. So as part of the development of the campus, that becomes what we call the interim landscape. Here's a view looking to the north, and you get a little bit of a sense of the major open spaces at the center of the campus, a little bit of the scale. The academic building, which is here, and the co-location building that's here are between 4 and 6 stories. They're very long, low buildings. They're really meant to be loft-type buildings to kind of create the open space areas that technology companies and technology education is looking for. And here you can see the taller buildings, the Exec Ed Center, and the residential building. These are the residential buildings being designed now. This is not what it's intended to look like. That's just the placeholder. Let me just go back. I just want to point out, these are all openings that are directly into the campus. There's no gates, no walls, no fences. It's really part of the open space network of the campus, of the island, and we're trying to create these courtyards that really bring people into the campus and connect across with the promenade. This is a ground level view of the main campus open space. You get a sense of the scale of some of the buildings. These are those very strong elements, which are the solar canopies that sit on top of the buildings. And again, you see this public sidewalk and public spaces that come into the buildings, into the campus. And here's the campus at night. One of the things that we think will distinguish this campus is the ground floor of almost every building is going to be transparent. So as you're walking into the campus, you'll be able to see what's going on in the buildings. In the first academic building, there's a cafe, which is going to be open to the public, along with all of the seating and all of the spaces on the campus, which are open to the public. So that's the overview of where we are, both programmatically and in terms of the design of the campus. And before I turn it over to my colleagues, I just want to say a few things about the construction process, because, as I said, that's where we are now, and that's one of the main reasons that we wanted to come talk to you today. This is a slide that we're very proud of, which is from January 21st, 2014. It was the first day of construction, really, the first day of delivering materials by barge. And what you're seeing here is, and Aric will talk about this a little bit more, but what you're seeing here is the operation as it's been developed for the demolition process, which is a barge with a crane on it that you can see on the right. It doesn't touch the seawall. It's moored off of the seawall and off of the riprap, so it doesn't touch anything that's RIAC property or associated with the promenade of the seawall. And then there's a barge that comes to and from the site that has containers on it. This one happens to have empty containers that are being delivered in order to take the material off the site at a future time. So this is the operation that you'll see. One of the things that we've talked with RIAC about, and I think people have seen on the island, is that in order to create an effective and safe barging operation with the crane swinging over the promenade, we've had to close the promenade on the east side, and as well as the roadway on the east side, because the trucks that are moving the containers on the east side of the island need to have free movement across there. We are committed to keeping the west promenade open throughout the duration of the project, and the west roadway will be turned into a two-way roadway with a loop at the bottom so that vehicles such as buses will be able to make their way to the southern end of the island, to the incredible parks and memorial space that are down there. So before I turn it over to Aric, I want to say two things. First of all, we're very proud of the team that we have. Some of them are here tonight. Ted Musho and John DiCapo from Tishman Construction. They're our agent for construction. There will be Tishman representatives on site all the time that there's construction happening at the site. We're very proud of our relationship with them. And the second is Aric, who I'm going to introduce. He's with PAL. Is it PAL or PAL? PAL. They're an environmental services abatement firm. They're our prime contractor for the abatement of the project. They're also working with Waldorf Demolition, which is one of the major demolition firms. You'll get the whole background on them, but it was very important to us to bring on firms that are really of the highest quality. And I think once you hear the approach, the background, and the process that they have, you'll be convinced as well that they're one of the top firms that we could have brought in. So we're very proud of our association with them too. Finally, let me say something about something that happened at the site recently, which was the water main break. As some people may know, we have a very early program of doing some borings to determine both the geostructural and also the geothermal qualities of the site. We've completed over the course of the past several months, we've completed probably about a dozen or so borings. In the course of one of the borings that happened about a week and a half ago, our driller did hit a water line and severed the water line, created a hole in it. I know there was some disruption to the water service on the island. I think, as I said earlier in my remarks, one thing we have learned about Roosevelt Island is that there are a lot of non-standard elements here, particularly the utilities, and particularly utilities that don't sit in the public right-of-way. So as we've been examining the site, we did a full survey of the site for all of the different utilities. We've spoken with all of the utility providers. They've provided us the information that they have. Unfortunately, with the case of the water main break, we knew there was a water main somewhere in that area, but even DEP wasn't sure exactly where it was. We did the typical standard process of digging by hand effectively down to about 5 feet. Unfortunately, the water main was down at about 9 or 10 feet, which again is very non-standard in New York City. So we are adopting different standards in the future. We're going to be using ground penetrating radar in order to locate any kinds of below-grade utilities that are within the areas that we'll be drilling. And we're going to be doing drilling work by hand to a little bit further than 5 feet next time as well. So as I said, we have completed a portion of the project without any problems at all. We don't anticipate future problems, and we're going to be implementing a more aggressive plan for testing before we drill. So with that, let me turn it over to Aric.
Aric Domozick. I'm Vice President of PAL Environmental Services. We are the prime contractor for the abatement and demolition of the Goldwater Hospital facility. A little background about our company. We are the largest privately owned abatement and demolition contractor in the New York metropolitan region, established by the same ownership in 1993. We've been in business almost 21 years. We've done over 10,000 projects. I've personally been involved with about 7,000 of those projects. I've been with the firm for 11 years. I'd like to say, on behalf of PAL, we've done a lot of work in this nature. We understand the concerns of the community. We understand that this is your community. We are coming into your community to do work. We are very respectful of that. We understand your concerns. We're not looking to create any difficulties for you. We're not trying to make this a difficult process. We want to do everything in our power to make this as easy as it can be and as minimally disruptive as it can possibly be. And we're committed to do that. Part of that will be maintaining an open dialogue. So with that, I'd like to go into a little bit of detail about the project itself. My company overview, we established in 1993. We self-perform all of our abatement work. We've done 275 million, etc. We're in close proximity to the project. Our office is in Long Island City on Queens Plaza South, just below the ramp to the upper deck of the Queensboro Bridge. I'd like to highlight a similar project that has some characteristics with this one. The Dormitory Authority property at Fitterman Hall, which is 30 West Broadway in Manhattan. It was severely damaged by the collapse of 7 World Trade Center on 9/11. It's a 15-story borough Manhattan Community College building. During the events of 9/11, the collapse of 7 tore the south facade off of the building. All of the dust generated during that collapse infiltrated the entire structure. Most of it is contaminated dust, arsenic, lead, nickel, anything you can think of was in that dust, asbestos. The building also contained asbestos, it contained lead, it was structurally compromised. After it was shored, it was boarded up and it sat for several years. In 2006, PAL was awarded the contract to abate and demolish it. The community and Community Board 1, rightly so, were extremely concerned about the hazards posed by this structure. We took the time to meet with them. We presented our approach. We were very open. We attended all of our community meetings. We laid out our progress. We kept regular updates. And as the project developed, people began to develop a level of comfort that we know what we're doing. We're not trying to hide anything. The same policy is going to be put into effect here. And I think that as we work along, you'll develop a level of trust with us. The project was self-performed by PAL. We abated the entire structure first. That abatement was overseen by a collection of every regulatory agency that governs this kind of work. OSHA, EPA, DEP, Department of Buildings, Department of Environmental Conservation. Every month we would meet with them, we'd lay out our plans, we'd take their comments, we'd revise our plans, we'd come back. It was an extensive, drawn-out process. We gained their trust, we gained their approval, we executed according to plan. The subcontractor that we used for the structural demolition of this facility was Waldorf Demolition. They're the same contractor that we intend to use for the demolition of the Goldwater Hospital. We have a great deal of experience. We've done thousands of projects together with Waldorf. They are the best in the industry at what they do. I'd like to take a moment to discuss safety. Safety is of the utmost priority to PAL Environmental. We take safety extremely seriously. We intend to implement a safety approach that is going to really make the project safe for all involved, safe for our workers, safe for the community, safe for any personnel involved in the site and the area. Part of that approach is safety audits. We have a full-time director of safety. His responsibility is to ensure that all PAL projects are performed to safety standards. That's industry standards, OSHA standards, as well as companies' internal policies. He reports directly to the owner of PAL. He does not report to me. I am the executive manager on this project. It's my job to oversee this job, to make sure it's successful, to make sure it's safe. However, as a check, the safety director does not report to me. He reports to my boss. Licensed site fire safety personnel. Building code requires that a licensed site safety manager be present on the site during demolition activities. We will provide that person. They also require a different person who is specifically designated to fire safety. We will provide this person as well. We have numerous licensed site safety personnel working for our company, and as does Waldorf. These personnel perform regular inspections. They have tasks that they have to make sure they are present for, such as hot work, any torch cutting work. There must be a fire safety manager on hand. There must be a fire guard on hand. They must be licensed, they must be fit to perform their tasks. Crane operations, there's always going to be a site safety manager whenever a crane is loading or unloading. Certain activities, certain will require the inspections. The inspections will be documented in reports. All personnel performing safety tasks, generating reports, will hold the proper safety training. Utilizing scaffold, there are certain types of scaffold training that you use. If you use a supported scaffold, you need a 4-hour training. If you use a suspended scaffold, you need a 16-hour training. If you install a scaffold, you need a 32-hour training. Anybody who has a certain duty that requires a certain level of training will have that training, and their certification will be present on file with PAL and will be present on the site. Work safe, home safe is our safety motto. Any management supervisors, including myself, hold 30-hour OSHA construction safety cards, additional site-specific training to address hazards that are specific to the work areas, a crew will encounter during the day, or that are specific to operations that are unique to the project such as this, like a barging operation, will be done on site by our safety personnel. Everybody reports, remediates, and follows up. There's a very clear chain of command, communication, and teamwork are things that we really stress on all of our projects. Everything is clear, people are encouraged to report, and we follow up to take care of any issues immediately. Hazard awareness and remediation training applies especially when you deal with hazardous materials such as asbestos and lead, which are known to be present at the site. All of PAL's asbestos handlers, lead handlers have their hazardous awareness training, they have medical testing, we have a medical surveillance policy, respiratory training, etc. We put forth the utmost effort to ensure a hazard-free environment for all of our employees, and that goes on this project as well as on all projects. I'd like to take a chance to segue into our approach to give you some specifics on how we plan to execute this job. Site logistics. This includes site condition survey, which has been conducted. We've photo documented the existing conditions around the site. We have compiled a report, and the report documents what is there now. Inspection of plumbing for potential contaminants. Since it was a hospital, since there was laboratories, during the years doing testing, there is a possibility that contamination has gotten into their sanitary system. We have an environmental consultant going around checking all sewer traps, testing for potential contaminants, and be remediated if necessary. Fence installation is underway. You may have seen it. The fence system consists of a concrete base barrier, 20 foot in length, and it's going to have a chain link vinyl coated fence on it. It'll be a total height of 12 foot. The installation of the barriers around the site for the project is complete. The fence installation is going to begin as soon as the weather breaks on top of those barriers. I have a further slide that will show a little bit more about the fence, so I'll show you where it is and what it will look like. The establishment of tree protection, erosion control, and trailer installation are imminently pending items. Erosion control is a feature installed on the inboard side of the fence to prevent any sediment from being washed off of the site into the river during storms. Tree protection is designed to prevent equipment from damaging any trees that are slated to stay. Trailer installation is for logistical purposes on the project. Will be done in front of the E-building in this area here. Establishment of security has already taken place. We have a 24/7 security presence on site that will remain for the duration of the abatement and demolition. The installation of mooring and barging. The barge that we use to operate the crane is known as a spud barge. It's a barge that arrives and spuds down, basically anchors down into the riverbed. So it's not a permanent mooring. It comes and goes as it's needed. To maintain a barging operation is an extremely expensive endeavor. So when the barge is not needed to perform any services, it spuds up and it goes back to port and returns as necessary. The loading barges come and go via tugboat, bringing loads in from New Jersey where their yard is, taking full loads out, and it will come back and forth as necessary. The abatement, a critical element of the abatement is to free open the site for construction vehicle traffic. There is a small building that connects Building E and Building C. That's one of the first pieces that goes to open up the site. The enabling of construction vehicle passage will really allow for a safe, direct transport path around the site so that vehicles don't have to swing all the way around in either direction. It will really control the flow of traffic. Delivery and staging of equipment and waste containers is underway. Waste containers have been delivered to the site as well as some equipment. It is our intention to maximize delivery and transport via the barge system. Anything and everything that we can get over on the barge is coming that way, particularly anything of substantial weight, such as waste containers of rubble going out, heavy excavation equipment coming in, etc. Here is a logistics plan that shows you a little bit more detail how it's going to look. The perimeter of the fence for the abatement and demolition project is shown by this red dashed line. It comes along the north road, runs south along the west road, and then returns east along the south road. It's essentially a three-sided fence, which leaves the east road within the site for vehicle container transport. The range of the crane only swings to a certain distance. To stage the containers effectively, we'll have transport vehicles that are inside of the site, that stays at the site, remain on site, in order to move containers to where they're needed. In the event we're working in the J building, we're going to move our containers closer to the J building. The crushing operation is for clean fill materials. The basements and foundations of these buildings are to be removed. The Department of Buildings requires any holes to be filled to grade as a measure of safety. Clean brick and concrete masonry debris that's generated during the demolition will be crushed on site, stockpiled, and then backfilled into the removed foundations. There is some overhead protection required on the North Road also. That's because of the proximity of the F building. The Department of Buildings requires a 60-foot distance for mechanical method demolition, which I'll speak a little bit more about later. Since that distance is not achievable here, we intend to install overhead protection because we need to do some manual demolition of the F building to comply with the Department of Building requirements. The demolition and abatement process is a three-step process. Step one is the interior demolition. That is the removal of any remaining building contents, built-in furniture, medical equipment, etc. that is not removed by the hospital. Removal of any interior finishes, partitions, and ceilings. That's any walls, any ceilings, exposed plenums, column covers, etc. Deconstruction of bathrooms, removal of fixtures. Removal of the perimeter plaster terracotta wall. The wall system on the interior side consists of a plaster wall on a terracotta block. Behind that is a cavity wall that's approximately 8 inches, and within that cavity wall there is asbestos that is not touching the block wall, but the block wall needs to be removed in order to access the asbestos. The interior demolition will also be performed by our experienced subcontractor, Goldwater Demolition. The idea is when we come onto the floor, we're going to open the floor as much as we can so that we have a wide open space for the next phase of the process, which is the asbestos. We'll install an interior abatement containment, which under this procedure is a New York City DEP code specified procedure called Subchapter G. It is specific to buildings that are being prepared for full deconstruction. That part of that process includes creating an airtight sealed interior by installation of abatement containment barriers constructed out of wood and plastic. It includes the installation of a negative pressure system, which is basically an engineering control that manipulates airflow via fan units that are equipped with filtration systems. The idea is that it moves the air through while you're working so that in the event there is dust generated during the operation, it's captured by the filtration system. Additional to that, as an engineering control, is wet methods. Asbestos is only handled via wet methods. Anything before it's touched for removal is wetted down with water. There's a zero tolerance by PAL for any dry removal activities. removal of interior and exterior asbestos. There is some exterior non-friable asbestos, as it is known, on the roofs, on the windows. It's a caulking material, tar-type material. It's a kind of asbestos that does not generate dust when it's manipulated with tools, equipment, pressure. There are special codes in the DEP regulations called exterior vertical surface procedure, abbreviated here as EVS, that is done for that specific type of asbestos. Window caulking should be removed using man lifts, which you may see from a distance while you're on site. There are some lifts on site now in preparation for this. It's our intention to perform interior and exterior asbestos abatement simultaneously by 2 separate crews. When the building has been fully abated and has passed air clearance, which is done by a third-party monitor hired directly by Cornell, the building will be cleared for structural demolition. Part of the demolition process includes removal of certain trees, includes the removal of all the windows in the building, includes the mechanical deconstruction of structural elements. By mechanical, what we mean is heavy equipment. All demolition requires some mechanized tools, but when we talk about mechanical, technically under DOB's regulations, when you talk mechanical, you're talking big equipment, heavy excavators, bobcats, etc. That's how we intend to do this job. During the deconstruction process, there'll be a sorting of the waste streams into conventional waste. It's known as C&D, construction and demolition debris, masonry for backfilling, and recycling, which includes salvages of all metals, steel, copper, brass, etc. The crushing of the masonry debris will be done to building code specifications in order to create a clean backfill. The removal of the foundations will then give us the area to backfill the site. A little bit more about barging. The barging point is on the east side of the site in the East River. All heavy equipment waste containers will be delivered by the barge. Any waste and recycling generated during the project will be transported by the barge. We have identified an experienced barger subcontractor, Don Marine. They have a great deal of experience in New York City doing this type of barging activity. And they have developed a barging plan, and they do have notification and approval from Coast Guard to go ahead and proceed with the barging operation, which will continue to come and go as the job progresses. Here's a cut of crushing equipment. This is the type of machine that we intend to stage on site to create our clean fill. A little bit about the sequence of work is put into 2 phases. Phase 1 will begin at the C building, working northwards. The first activities coming into the building, any building, will be the interior deconstruction. As it progresses down the building, abatement will start above it and begin working behind it. Once the demolition clears the building, it moves on to the next, and abatement continues. Once a building, in this case building C, has been cleared, it undergoes structural deconstruction, and abatement moves to the next building. These processes follow one after another in a continual cycle until the buildings are gone. Part of our strategy for this project is to expedite the process by overlapping our phase 1 and phase 2 and making them continuous operation, which we believe accelerates the schedule, makes the job safer. The longer this type of project goes on, the more risk there is. The best way to deal with the building is to get it down safely and to get it done quickly. And that's our intent with this project. And as you continue through the process, you come to the end of phase 1. By the time we are fully into phase 2, as you can see, we are almost 50% done with the phase 2 work, which will progress until the site is cleared, the last activity being the structural demolition of the J building. And at that point, the site will have been demolished and backfilled, and will be turned over for the construction of the new building.
There are landscape architects, and the idea is for Karen to walk you through in detail the landscape plan that's been developed and a lot of the details that the team is working on.
Are you going to say a good word about that talk? That was a classic.
That's your job to say a great word about them. I brought them here because I think they're great, but I'm hoping that you felt that way too.
Hi everyone. So after all that good stuff, it's my first slide, I'm going to be quick. My first slide is just to remind us how fantastic this site really is, and everybody here knows it, I'm sure, but just to remind all of us what an amazing place this is. We have views, 360s views to the Queensboro Bridge, Queens, Manhattan, and amazing skies to the south, which are great in the park. Our site, as you can see, is bounded by the road, and after that we have the esplanade, to which we are sort of connecting. The overall site plan, as Andrew showed before, what we have here is the gateway area. This is where most people will arrive from the F-stop and coming in. This is sort of would be the kind of the north-south connection. The way we term this, the plan is phase 1 and phase 2. However, what you see in front of you will be completed in 2017. This is the plan. So even though we call this phase 2, it's actually will be done in phase 1 as you see it now. The building, as Andrew mentioned before, just to situate you again, is the first academic building right here on the west side, the corporate co-location building on the east road. We have the central utility plant and the residential building and a future hotel site. The road will be widened. Coming from the curb, we're not changing anything on the Esplanade side. Inward, the widening will occur on our side of the site. It would include a two-way bike lane all around, a buffer, a painted buffer, a driving lane that would be a one-way lane as it is today, going this way around the site and here in this direction on the north side, and a parking lane as well. The main feature, open space features are the gateways. You enter, you would come up. This is the north-south connection is built up as a ridge. It's part of the resiliency idea and to be outside of the floodplain. We are bringing the entire elevation up. Oops, one more thing. Most of the entrances to the buildings will then be situated along the spine here, and one will be able to access the buildings from this ridge-like. Additionally, these are seen as sort of social spaces that will be a kind of a necklace of spaces as you walk through the site. And as Andrew mentioned as well, there's no gates or fences, and the idea of these arcs are to kind of thicken the public space in a way and invite people to come from the Esplanade onto the campus and enjoy it. And this is a view looking west, looking toward Manhattan, toward Queens. You see the kind of open space. This is the phase 2, what we call phase 2. Is going to be a, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. It's going to be a meadow. This is a great lawn right here, and the buildings to come. The first academic building, the corporate co-location, which you could actually, you'll be able to see through almost from the lawn to Queens. Residential building and the hotel. Phase 1 would look like this. This is a closer view of it. Again, the gateway is sort of a welcoming area where the bus will stop. You will enter into the campus, very shallow slopes. They're kind of the entrances situated along this circular space, if you will, and a campus plaza that would be a kind of a flat, wide space for flexible events and so on. And on the west, there will be the Great Lawn. Terraces here facing the river, Manhattan, and the lawn, and the plaza, and an outdoor amphitheater to the east. We have a kind of an idea of a mineral landscape, this kind of a textural idea, riparian landscape using a lot of native species. We're not going to have automated irrigation for the most part. We are using native species that are tough and can stand it. We are proposing a kind of, as I said, a sort of a gamut of mineral landscape that would be, that would start from being a kind of a resin-bonded surface as a pathways. We'll have the seat walls that demarcates the arcs, and these kind of boulder and rock landscape that would be the planted areas. And you see here it will range in scale. There will be the gravel that you walk on, that will be bonded and ADA compliant and everything else. There will be the rocks, medium-sized rocks and these boulders. Everything will be tough and beautiful. The paths, we're using similar system, a different gravel top, but similar system to the for Freedom Park. It's ADA compliant, it's a completely porous surface, so the water filtrates immediately down, which we like. And the boulder landscape, as you see it planted, arid planting, and a wetland planting in the same sort of conditions of boulder and rocky landscape. The stormwater management that is important to us will be something like this. This is the big picture. That each of these arcs will lead the water to stormwater gardens at the bottom of, if this is the ridge, this is the high point, the water will run off to these areas. We have a kind of a cavity that is gravel. It will be still planted. You won't really see it except for the planting that will be a little different in the stormwater gardens. But these sort of are thick bladders, if you will, and can take more water. This is a little bit more technical data, but this is what it would look like. And some of these, this section ranges, it says here 6 feet, sometimes it's 5. It's all being engineered by our civil with us as well. And this is what it might look like as you walk near it. The seat walls, those are demarcating the arcs. They kind of would be a feature, a subtle feature that of course is usable and kind of creates different ideas for, for socialization. It would look something like this, not quite as yellow sandy, but more whitish in color, and using the kind of aggregate and the mineral idea as well to emphasize that. The entry, the gateway will look something like that, with the first academic building right here, the corporate co-location beyond. This is the esplanade as it exists. Looking back at the bridge, similar view. This is what we call the entry court, and you feature seating in the middle. Again, allowing people to pass through, but still be something that's usable and social, something like this in New York town. The main plaza, the campus plaza, would be the heart of the campus. It opens up to the corporate co-location. There's a cafe terrace right here next to the first academic building that one could traverse from. This is a little bit elevated from this, and you can go up and down. There are social rooms, smaller, more intimate, on the edges. That allows, again, for small gathering of different sorts. Here we have picnic tables, we have double-sided benches, these little balconies here, ping pong tables, and other sort of amenities that are open to all. The campus plaza will have a feature paving, but the intent is to leave it kind of open. There might be movable seating, movable furnishing in here at times, but the idea is to leave it open, flexible, so there could be seasonal markets, events, little performances or whatnot that require it. Circulation is from all directions, and this is phase 2, so this will come in later phases, but at the phase 1, the circulation leads to this plaza. It's a really central space. It will be surrounded with these amazing species that are great in the fall time when students come back to the campus. This is what you'll get. And the lawn would look something like this. The outdoor classroom to the east, if you recall, would also allow for a small classroom to gather here, or small performances. It's a different scale of a place. And this is what it may look like, with ornamental trees and shrubs surrounding it. And this is the south portion of the corporate co-location. It's just a path leading up to the campus plaza here and Manhattan beyond. So this here is the east road. And you see a kind of a stormwater garden to the side, and this is the corporate co-location right here. Moving on to the interior landscape, first phase, as you see, it will be meadow, and these will be mowed paths in the meadow. Everything will be flowering meadows. A portion will be, as I said, mowed even for just for use. This is reserved for PV solar panel. And we have arcs here that's reserved for research and education and public outreach. This is a path south of the lawn, and you will see kind of the meadow to the side. The idea is that there's always something in bloom, at least one species, not more. The idea of the species is first native, but second, really attracting pollinators, butterflies, bees, and really making it alive, literally space, nesting ground for birds, and everything that it can be. It would look something like this, except that this will be a flowering meadow, and it will be mowed once or twice a year. And the mowing area, you could actually walk everywhere, but this is ideally where one would walk. On the perimeter, we'll have outdoor fitness stations that, again, are for everybody to use. We will choose equipment that multiple people can use, and that's kind of important to us, so it's part of, again, a social thing. You can run, jog with your body, and do these. At the very south end, we have a kind of a flat area, and that's slated for free play. Again, open to the public. It's going to be graded more flatly and to be used however one wishes. And these arcs that I mentioned before for research and educational outreach gardens will focus on edible gardens. There's a kind of an interest in the Cornell side and the faculty side to explore topics and to really involve the community as well. So one is the edible garden. We've talked about the species that are now available and are able to grow here due to climate change. We talked about pollinators, the kind of the insect hotels, and so on. So I think there's a huge opportunity here. That's great. And this is it. This is
We're really excited about how these plans are coming together, so I hope that came through. I think Jane is going to moderate the Q&A, but I'm wondering if I can ask the first question, because it's a question I've been dying to ask the team for months and I keep forgetting to ask. Does anybody know why the buildings at the hospital aren't consecutively named? That's a drawing. I don't know if you guys noticed, it goes from A to C to D to... Does anybody know? All right, we're going to note that. Judy must know. Judy knows, of course. Can you tell us?
B, okay, it goes, F is the research lab, which is the very northern tip. Then there were 4 wings with patient units in it. Going from the south end was A and B. E is the administration building. C and D were 2 more wings of patients. The entranceways for visitors were G and H, I think. And the very southern tip of the island was a building that was added in 1970, and that's J. So what can I tell you? The Department of Hospitals didn't have rich donors like most places have that you name the building after, so the city just used A, B, C.
Thank you. I'm dying to know that. Thank you. And before I turn this to Jane, I just wanted to say that Christina Parisi joined us. Christina, where are you? Yes, thank you for joining us. Christina represents Congresswoman Maloney, and she also sits on the Community Task Force, so thank you for coming tonight. So Jane, all yours.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's great to see so many familiar faces in the room. We have about 30-35 minutes, I think, for questions. We do need to be out of this room at 7:45 because Roosevelt Island Residents Association's meeting follows ours. So we ask that you get in line in the center aisle, and I'll have the microphone, and you can speak into it so that your questions can be heard. We ask that you introduce yourselves, your name, your address, and if you live on Roosevelt Island, please tell us what building you live in. We'd like to know that as well. And if you could please limit yourself to 1 question and keep it short if you can. And then if there's time at the end, maybe we can have time for a few more questions. But to give everybody a chance to ask their question, we ask that you keep it brief and ask just 1 question for now. So I think we're ready to get started.
All right. My name is Sherry Holstein, and I am a previous 14-year member of RERA. My question goes to Aric. Is that your name? Yes. From PAL? I have actually several. I have more questions during yours. But the first thing is, are you aware that the Roosevelt Island Bridge is closed periodically? It's put in the up position for 15 or 20 minutes occasionally when they're testing it, when they're checking to make sure it works. And I'm wondering if you've taken that into consideration in terms of your emergency, fire, and ambulance services that you need to have access to in case of an emergency in the demolition process.
Right, yes. We are aware that it is a drawbridge. That's one of the reasons why we do not intend to use it for regular construction activity. As far as emergency services, we plan to have 24/7 emergency access via vehicle gates that will be manned by security personnel at the least, possibly even construction supervisor personnel.
Vehicle gates?
Yeah, at the site, when you approach the site, you'll see the fence perimeter, and on the east roadway, north and south side, will be sliding gates. So if there's a fire emergency and EMS needs to come, or if the fire department needs to come, they approach the gate.
But that's if the bridge is functioning.
Right.
What happens when the bridge is up and you have an emergency?
Right. Our supervisors and safety personnel are trained in first aid, and they are able to administer first aid.
And you have fire equipment as well?
Fire extinguisher throughout the site. Every 3,000 feet of space has a fire extinguisher on site. In fact, they're on site now. We also have our safety manager is a former New York City fire chief, and he actually worked in the House and Services of Roosevelt Island. We've established contact with the fire department so that we have an ongoing dialogue with them. We defer to them, really, in how they handle an emergency.
Right, it's not so much the fire department I'm concerned about, it's when the bridge is in the up position and nothing can get across. You should be aware of that if you need vehicles to come onto the island, ambulance service or fire. Right,
in the event that there's an injury, then we will have vehicles on site. There will be cars. We're not intending to everyone drive over, but there are certain personnel. Security, for instance, security has a car. They patrol the site. If somebody were to, say, break a leg, they could easily be transported by a security vehicle up to the hospital on the north side of the island.
Okay, to call it. But they don't handle emergency services up here.
In the event that happens, then the bridge is going to have to come down.
No, you have to understand you're dealing with the department. What department is it that does the bridges? Department of Transportation, I believe. So you should just be aware of that, because if the bridge is up and they're testing it, we've had to have fire. We've had a situation where the subway wasn't working and the bridges were up. The bridge was up, and we had I think firemen coming over by subway.
Can I ask a question? Is that a planned closing, or does it take you by surprise?
They're planned. Mostly they are planned, but you should be aware of that.
We have weekly meetings of coordination with RIAC.
Get on their advisory bulletin list.
What's that?
Get on their advisory bulletin list.
We're all on their advisory bulletin list, but we also meet with them every week. And so
but the DOT.
I would assume that they would have, if RIAC would have knowledge of these beforehand, we know.
Would you really? I wouldn't
know
rely on
the
RIAC for
DOT.
that. You need to go to the DOT.
It's right. City and state, they don't talk to one another.
Sherry, we'll come back to you.
Hi, my name is John Doherty. I'm a resident of Island House, 575 Main Street. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful campus, and I, for one, am very glad that Cornell Tech is going to be barging in. Looking at the surfaces that you're planning to create, they look very attractive for skateboarders, an active skateboarding community, which got me to the question of your security situation. You mentioned that you're going to be putting in a security layer. I was wondering, what's the relationship between your security detail, public safety, New York City Police? What's the handoff there? What's the relationship? If someone during the construction phase or later when the campus is built runs afoul of your security, how does that coordination happen?
So our security, we have had correspondence with public safety on the island. We meet with RIAC on a weekly basis to discuss progress We also have reached out to New York City Fire Department, Police Department, et cetera, to let them know this project is going to be going on. In the event of a true criminal emergency, we would contact the NYPD. Our security guards are not police, they don't make arrests. As far as control of the site, fence is really our site control. Our fence is along the curb line, all the way along the east road as far as the site goes, back across the north road, back across the south road, all the way to the river. It's a 12-foot high fence, it's not easily breached. Its security is posted at every access point. So we really control what takes place in the site with our fence and with our security presence there. And in the event of emergency, FDNY, NYPD, EMS, etc., will be contacted by our security personnel.
What happens during the building phase if kids breach your site?
In the event that somebody is on site that's not supposed to be on site, security will approach them and attempt to. The first step is to say, "Excuse me, the site is closed. You can't be on the site." And attempt to escort them off the site. In the event that they resist, then public safety and NYPD would be called in.
It would be effectively treated as private property within the fence, and so as Aric said, we would try to deal with it. They would try to deal with it without public safety, but if that became necessary, we would. As for the long-term question, that's a great question. That's something we don't really have an answer for yet. We're in the process of working through a security plan. We would be working closely and collaborating with the Roosevelt Island Public Safety Division, with the NYPD as well. So when we're ready, within the next year or so, when we're really looking at how to police the campus, we'd be engaging with those sorts of questions.
Hi, my name is Nina Garic, I live with 595. And my question would be about if you are, you're familiar that we are our island is on the way of migrating by birds. So the birds go twice a year back and forth, and they collapsing in our buildings already. And what I see on the picture, you're going to have tall buildings and lower buildings which are going to be lit from inside, and a lot of birds are traveling by night. So I'm curious if you are familiar with the project Safe Flight, and if your buildings are following bird safe building guidelines of New York City Audubon Society.
Are you talking about for the tall buildings or the low buildings?
Everything.
We're certainly familiar with them when it comes to the taller buildings, and we're just only beginning the design for those taller buildings. So as I said, what you saw are really just placeholders. They're not actual designs for buildings.
That's why I think it's better if I ask you now.
And I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that yes, we will be.
Because you mentioned that the buildings will be lit and the glass will be transparent. So the birds, even like non-migrating birds, they will not understand that there is a glass. And especially at night, it will go through and you will have a mass grave there. Because we're already picking birds, like especially American woodcock, twice a year with our buildings, which also has to be addressed finally, because like I personally have a lot of photographs of dead bodies under our buildings. And when I saw this, if it's going to be lit at night, that's going to be like a disaster for migrating birds. So I would like to know who would be the person to be in contact with. I also would like to know if you're working with Cornell Ornithology Department on that, and if you want to be contacted, or like I would like to be involved in that, contact with Audubon Society or with this Safe Flight project.
The answer is we're not yet, but we will be.
Yeah, just my concern would be like if the architecture has to order specific glass, so it wouldn't be like after the fact that it's already ordered and you invested a lot of money into it. Also, another thing would be, I know it's early, but the regulations for the light, say in spring or fall, certain special months, you would not have it on during the night. That's also, but it has to be addressed.
Yes, we're very focused on that issue. We're looking for a high LEED rating for the campus, and one of the issues with LEED rating is lighting, particularly at night, light pollution. So we're looking to have mostly down lighting. A lot of the buildings, in fact, on campus will be metal-clad buildings, and you'll see a lot fewer windows. part of the energy efficiency issues, but so that doesn't fully answer your question, but we will be looking at those issues. Yeah.
And it's only not only part of these lower buildings.
Just for history, tomorrow is the 78th anniversary of the last person leaving the penitentiary. And that took 3 years, it took 1 year to demolish and 3 years to build Goldwater. You need a little history lesson. Karen, when they take down Goldwater, you are going to find Fordham Knives, the native stone of Roosevelt Island, under that hospital. I've seen it through the hatches. And I think when they find the native stone, it should be saved, just like in South Point Park. It's used for the serpentine barriers, the walks there. That it should be saved and used in your parks. You shouldn't bring in foreign stone. You're going to find lots of Fordham knives under that building, and it should really be part of, of the habitat of the gardens and the stuff, because it's here. It was here. There's going to be plenty of it, and so something to dig into.
Yes, I think it'll be interesting. Right now we have New York stone, but not from the site. It's rugged. I don't know exactly what the quantities and what's there, but.
One other question about the road. The West Road has to stay open. You're building a turnaround?
Yes.
By the entrance to South Point Park?
By the entrance to South Point Park.
Are you going to be taking down any of the trees or anything on that corner to build the turnaround, or is there enough space already?
We are going to be taking down some trees to do that. They're not being taken down specifically to build the turnaround. They're being taken down because they're too close to the roadway. As the roadway expands, as Karen mentioned, it moves about 10 feet in toward the site. And in order to accomplish that, unfortunately, we are going to be losing some trees around the perimeter of the site, and some of those trees are right at that corner.
When is the roadway being built?
Roadway is being built as part of phase 1. So I don't have a specific schedule yet, but probably by the end of this year we'll be starting construction on utilities, which has to happen before the roadway.
I'm Sharon Berman. I'm an Island House resident for many years. It's a little hard to see, but it looks like the tennis bubble and sports park are there.
Yes.
Unchanged.
Unchanged.
Some of us were hoping that you would, you're smiling. Go ahead.
Well, rule number 1 of property development is to only work on your own property.
Wait, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I really couldn't hear you.
I'm just saying, I was making a joke. We can only develop on our own property. We don't own or control that property.
Well, still, some of us were hoping, obviously, that you would either add on to Sports Park or perhaps get permission to tear it down and build something that could be used both by the community and by your students and staff and faculty. I mean, surely you've thought about it.
This is a graduate campus. We're not as focused on athletic facilities as you would see, for example, at an undergraduate campus.
Nevertheless, an increasing number of campuses, including campuses with large graduate centers, have recreational facilities. I mean, you really aren't even thinking about doing something?
We're not thinking of engaging with changing sports park. That's not something that's been requested by the community. It's not something that we've really been asked to do.
It was requested by the community. It's on the list of things that the community asked.
It was requested.
But it's not their property. They were asked to.
I'm sure that something could be worked out.
Good evening. My name is Eva Fosbach. I'm the coordinator of the Roosevelt Island Parents Network, and I'm also a member of RIRA. First of all, I would like to thank you for all your efforts and for paying such a great attention to reaching out to the community. We really appreciate that. I have two questions. One is, we saw those great open places, and we know that you will have a lot of faculty and students here and their families. So, and we know, of course, that you are invited to use all the playgrounds and all the facilities for children and families we have on the island, but we would also be interested to hear if you plan to maybe add 1 or 2 playgrounds on your campus which your faculty and students and their families and residents could use, or any other programming for children to participate in the community that is already here. And the second question, in one of the meetings in the past, you mentioned that you would like to do a feasibility study on pedestrian access to the Queensboro Bridge, so that, again, faculty and students and also residents have an easier access, not only for emergency situations, but for regular accessing the island and Manhattan. If you could update us on that, it would be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me take them one at a time. Let me start with children's programming. We're very interested in bringing the community onto the campus and to engage the community through programming. So one of the things that Karen talked about is that amphitheater, which we'd like to be able to use for programming. We'd also like to engage people with the community, with the education and research garden area. I think the playground question is one that we've talked about back and forth. Based on the studies that we've done of the campus population that we'd have, we don't believe that there's really a demand from the campus itself for a playground in the phase 1 portion of it, which is why you're not seeing that in phase 1. The second question was about the access to the bridge. Yes, we're actively studying that. We had a student seminar that looked at it last year. They came to some very initial conclusions looking at the ridership, and we want to follow that up with some more advanced engineering studies that would look at the real possibility of doing that. I mean, I can say, as I think it wouldn't be surprising for people to hear, that it would be fairly expensive, fairly complicated. The location that it could be is fairly limited, but yes, it's something that we're looking at at the moment from an academic perspective and from a transportation planning perspective, but we'd like to broaden that out over time.
Yeah, you know that the bridge is landmarked also, but that we also had this access in the past. So, yeah.
Yes, it's really complicated. We think it's a great idea, but it's very complicated from a security point of view, from a landmark point of view, structural, finance, operations. There's no shortage of problems with it, but that's not a reason not to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm back. Okay, yes, I know, like a bad penny, but here I am. Okay, I'm going to ask this question again. This is from Aric. It's a group of questions, but I'm going to ask them all at once, so that it's one question. Okay. The first thing is, you're bringing heavy equipment onto the island. Is it coming by barge, or is it coming on the backs of trucks? If it's coming on the backs of trucks, it's coming down Main Street, which, as you know, bisects the entire island. Do you have any way of protecting the community if you're bringing this equipment on by truck? Or do you have any way of protecting the community from all of the noise and the fumes and the damage on the street that these heavy trucks with the heavy equipment are going to be bringing, and the fumes, which will be coming into our windows?
We do not intend to truck any heavy equipment into the site. All heavy equipment is going to be delivered via barge.
Okay.
Any equipment within the site operating within the site is going to be operating on low sulfur diesel with best available retrofit technology. That's within the site itself. That equipment is not driving up and down Main Street.
Okay, so, thank you very much.
But we should also note that materials and equipment are also leaving sites by barge.
Right, that I knew.
Delivery, but it's also
It's our intention to do absolutely the most that we possibly can with the barge for bringing in and bringing out.
Great. I hope you continue to use the barge throughout the entire process. Thank you.
Actually, Sally, this question is for you, and then I have another one for you. So this one doesn't count because it's for Sally. So Sally, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry, I don't know. My brain isn't functioning today. I'm sorry. So the water main break really made us aware that it is absolutely imperative that we have some kind of an alert system for the community when we have problems. So I'm wondering if we can establish some kind of an opt-in system where people can give you their email addresses and you set up a system so that there's like a notification board kind of a thing, and people can be notified immediately if there's an emergency of some sort, or if there's a breakage or anything else that they need to be notified of.
This has been discussed by the team, and I think, Andrew, you might want to take it in terms of the contractor.
Yeah, we've talked about protocol for communication from internally with the team and then specifically to RIAC. I think one of the challenges that the island faces in general, as any community faces, is that as the developer of the site, let's say if we have an incident like we did with the water main, we're not really qualified to say to people the water is safe or the water is not safe. So what our job is to do is communicate as quickly as we can with the government authorities having jurisdiction over that. Because what I don't want to do is communicate something that's incorrect or something that's kind of half known. And so, I think we're very much about communication here and making sure that people know what we're doing. But in an emergency situation, I think it's important for us to do it through the channels of the agencies that have jurisdictions over those pieces, whether it's RIAC on the roads and security issues, or DEP on water, Con Ed on electrical, Verizon on communications. All of those players would probably be who we'd reach out to first. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I'm not even saying first.
Okay.
I'm saying once you know, then there's got to be some way of reaching the community. So I'm not telling you to tell the community before you know,
okay.
But I'm saying once you know, then we need to be able to get that word out to the community. So now my question to you, and I know you know what this is, okay. Those folks that live in that area and that come to that area, they're going to be recreating to some degree. They're not always going to have their nose in their books. And they are an age where they probably will be tennis players. And those folks are going to be the 7,000 folks coming onto this community in that area, and it's more than our tennis courts can handle. You've got a lot of extra green space there. Maybe 3 tennis courts might be appropriate, Andrew, please.
Roosevelt Island Community Coalition, and I live in Island House. Simple question. You've indicated on several occasions that you're going to use barging as much as possible throughout the demolition phase. What about the construction phase?
Yeah, as part of our commitments through the ULURP process, we're committed to using barging during the construction phase as well. During the demolition phase, to be clear, we're using it for almost 100% of the materials. In the construction phase, that's not feasible for a series of reasons. We would like to, we have committed to doing barging, and we will be doing barging in the construction phase, but I don't have any answers at the moment about how much and which materials. I believe that the commitment we made overall is to barge 40% of all materials to and from the site.
40% means a lot of trucks on Main Street. I don't like that.
40% is our commitment. If we can do better, we'll do better.
I hope you're going to take this up with RIAC at some point. I think you can do better than 40%.
What I can say is we're learning a lot about barging by doing this first phase. I think the commitment to do almost 100% during demolition is a really great start, and we're going to continue to work and see what we can do.
I'm Alan Siegel, and I live out of harm's way on the North End. Aric, in the 20 years since 1993, has there been death or injury to anybody under the umbrella of PAL or Waldorf?
PAL has not had a fatality in our 20-year existence. I don't believe Waldorf has, but I don't know for sure, and I can check that out and provide the information to Andrew.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I don't understand my native language. What is self-abatement? I mean, my friends ask me to abate myself from time to time, but I don't think that's what you meant.
No, we self-perform, meaning that we don't subcontract abatement. We are a licensed abatement contractor.
You guys do the work?
We do the work ourselves with our own forces.
Thank you.
Thanks. Deborah Gardner, I live in Rivercross and have for a long time. What about resurfacing Main Street between, the fire station and the old original home, Blackwell home? What really needs to be done is that road needs to be resurfaced. It undulates all the time because of its materials. The manhole covers go up and down. That would be something to consider for your work. It would cut down on noise, it would cut down on how your trucks can go in and out. And then the second thing I wanted to say is the 59th Street Bridge is landmarked. It's beautiful. We have always seen it, the entire span of the 59th Street Bridge. Your building, that tall building, will interrupt that beautiful long span of historic building. It will be the only building that will be doing that. And it's very disappointing to see that you have chosen to make such a tall building that will intrude on one of the most beautiful bridges here in New York. I find that a real disappointment that you're doing that.
Well, let me answer the first part. I would defer to Aric on the maintenance of the roadway. I do understand, and I would defer if someone here knows more. I do understand they're looking at a project to do something relative to resurfacing on Main Street, but again, I'm not an expert in it. That's far away from our site. As for the height of the building,
But it's far away from your site, but you're going to be going over the bridge, down the bridge.
exactly. Which is why we've been working with Aric on this, and why we're committing to the 100% barging in the demo phase. But I don't know if there's someone here who knows more about that, but we understand that Aric is working on a project to do that.
Oh, you do know that. Great.
That's our understanding, but again, I can't speak for them. I would defer to them on that.
It's so necessary. It's so necessary. You know, rather than going out there and replacing little bricks periodically. Okay.
And as for the other issue, what I would say is that we think that the building is fairly contextual. It is roughly 26 stories high, which is consistent with the recent buildings at on the north side of the bridge.
No, they will reduce to 22.
Sorry?
There is a modification in Southtown. The building was reduced down to 22 floors.
And they're not as close. And yours are quite close. So just looking at this, this is just a placeholder. May I encourage you to go back and do something with the top of it. Reconsider the top of it somehow. Okay, well, she's holding it, so it's, could you work on the top of the building? Maybe add a piece, there is free ground, maybe add a piece at the bottom for residents. An additional, piece at the bottom that would take those residents that you want at the top and bring them down in a different context. I mean, there's a different way of doing it, because this is the 59th Street Bridge. I mean, I find it incredible that it seems very cavalier to me. Okay.
I don't find anything beautiful about that bridge, but that's an view. And it's hard to make an ugly bridge. The map of the bridges makes it beautiful. I'm Ethel Rome. I live on the island for a long time, and I've spent an entire lifetime since I'm 17 in construction. I have a tiny question, but before I just want to pin a rose on you. That was a marvelous, both of you, talk.
Thank you so much.
I didn't have anything to do with it except appreciate it. What we got was facilities construction manager 101. You should make that a semester course someplace. It was crystal clear. It will not come to pass exactly as you know, but there it'll be. It was beautiful. My question is this. The last time I took a boat around this island, the lecturer, a well-known physicist, said that with global warming over the next 20 years, even if we take all measures now, they're expecting a minimum 5-inch rise around, because I said what's happening to Roosevelt Island. Are we thinking about that at all?
Yes, we're definitely thinking about that. As Karen mentioned, the ridge at the center of the campus will be lifted up by about 8 feet from where the ground level would be, and all of the building entrances will be off of that central ridge. So we are lifting up all the ground floors, and we're also taking all the infrastructure that we can out of the basements of the buildings, electrical service and pumps and things like that, and moving them up to the top.
That's better than my building. I think if we have a 5-inch rise at Rivercross, we ought to start putting all of our utilities, by the way, up high.
So that's what we're focused on doing.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Goodspeed. I work at an organization called Bike New York. We offer free bicycle education classes throughout the city. But we just started programming on Roosevelt Island, and so we've taken an interest in cycling on the island. And I'm very excited to see that you're going to be installing bike lanes around the campus, but I was curious to know if there were discussions about extending those bike lanes throughout the island to better connect the two entities. And I was also curious to know if you were planning on having storage facilities in the buildings that you make for bicycles.
Storage facilities, yes, in the buildings,
okay.
Partly as required, but partly because we want them. Also storage facilities on the campus itself, particularly at the perimeter of the campus. I think somebody mentioned the issue of skateboarding earlier. I'm not sure we responded to that, but one of the things that the gravel surface does, and I would defer to Sally on this too, I think it does discourage skateboarding because it's not a flat surface that you can get up a lot of speed on. Frankly, we don't want people riding on the campus. We want them to leave their bikes at the perimeter. So we're going to be building bike racks around the perimeter of the campus. As for the issue of connecting with the rest of the island, again, I would say that we would love to be a participant in that sort of a process, but we can't do things that are beyond the limits of our campus. But yeah, we support biking throughout the campus, throughout the island. And I think someone mentioned before the bridge to the elevator to the bridge, which would be for pedestrians and bicyclists as well. So it'd be a wonderful way to get onto the island.
Hi, my name is Karen Lee. I live on 531 Main Street, Rivercross. I've been there for 17 years. My question really is I'm very concerned about the boring and whatever lines are being cut, because I think it was early November, lines were cut. People lost their Verizon phone lines for quite some time. And then, of course, the water main. And as of yesterday, my line, again, for Verizon, was also dead. So I'm wondering how many times we're going to anticipate this sort of thing happening, because I don't know how many other people live in Rivercross, but I do not have internet service and my phone line is dead, and I depend on internet for my business. So please, how can this be, better, attended to? The question of alerts is helpful. I mean, I signed my name on that list, but I'm hoping that my name on that list will be telling me what might be happening or is happening and what I'm doing about it.
Right. Yeah, I think I mentioned it, I think, during my early remarks. We're going to be more aggressive about doing testing on the site prior to drilling. We're going to be bringing on equipment such as ground penetrating radar to look very specifically in the area that we're looking to drill. We're going to be doing hand drilling to a deeper level than is typically done in order to try to make sure that we're away from all of the utilities. But yeah, we understand that's a serious issue. Certainly a serious issue for us. It slows things down. It's much more expensive, and it doesn't make friends in the community. So we have a strong interest in being more aggressive about making sure that we don't have those kinds of issues in the future. But if we do, again, we're going to be communicating with RIAC and communicating with the community.
Well, are you aware of the one that happened yesterday?
I'm not aware of a Verizon issue that took place. Was it?
Yes, it's supposedly been reported, but it may have been having been as a result of whatever drilling is going on, or
it wouldn't have been anywhere. We don't have any drilling going on at the moment. That's it.
My name is Trevor Andrews. I live on 405 Main Street. And my question is both during construction and after construction about access. I run around the island every night, and if you're going to barge things on for construction, I assume you're going to have to go over the walkway. So does that mean I'm not going to be able to run around the island anymore? And the same once the campus is open, is it going to be 24 hours access to campus pathways and roads and things like that? Thank you.
Unfortunately, during the construction period when we're barging, the esplanade will not, on the east side, won't be open. So the Esplanade on the west side will be open, so you could run down on the west side, presumably down around the South Point and the Four Freedoms Park, but then have to come back on the west side as well. It's a safety issue. I'm not sure if you were here for the presentation on the barging, but because of the boom going over the edge of the Esplanade, we can't allow pedestrians over there. As for afterwards, the perimeter of the esplanades themselves, after construction is finished and the campus is operational, as I understand it, are open 24 hours a day and operated by RIAC. The campus itself, I believe the public space hours are, I'm not going to get this exactly right, I think it's 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., something like that. It's included in the zoning language. So it's not 24 hours a day, but it's from very early until very late.
So this is the first of what I hope to be many of these open meetings. I do want to encourage you, you are welcome, and we encourage you to come to our task force meetings. Those are open to the public. And the next one, I believe, is on April 28th, so we'll certainly get the word out about them. Please do come if you can. Thank you all so much for coming, and keep your comments and your questions coming, and we'll see you at the next meeting.